are now tuned in to Sippin' with Sky.
What up? It's your boy Sky, and I'm excited. I'm about to introduce you guys to Jim Fryhoff. So I've had a lot of my friends in the Sheriff's Department tell me that I have to sit down with him. I got to get his story, and I'm excited. So come on, let's go meet Jim. Jim, what's up?
Sky?
Good to
How
see
you doing?
man.
Great to see you.
You ready to get started?
Absolutely. Come on in, let's get this done.
I think the people need to hear your story.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for coming over.
Let's do this.
Let's get this.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of Sippin' with Sky. And today, I have a really special guest. He's been in law enforcement in the Sheriff's Department for over 30 years, and every single person that I talk to is endorsing him. So I'm extremely honored and excited to have Jim Fryhoff here today.
Thank you very much, Sky, for having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. It's been a busy year. We're down to the last 5 weeks here for this election, so it's super busy right now.
You know what? It was so nice to meet you the other day on the golf course.
Yeah.
Where it was the fire department versus the sheriff's department, right?
The battle of the badges.
The battle of the badges. And it was, I was shocked because usually when there's a candidate that's running, you have an endorsement here, an endorsement there. But I saw that the fire department endorsed you, the sheriff's department endorsed you. One of my really good friends, Victor Flores, love the guy to death. A big part of our community in Saticoy, did so many amazing things. First thing he told me, he's like, Sky, you gotta meet this guy. He's the real deal. So that's why I wanted to have you here on the show. And I wanted to get to know your plan and what you're about.
Okay. I'm excited to share with you what I'm all about and my history, what I've done in the organization, what the plans are for the future. And one thing that you mentioned about Victor, being connected with the community.
Yep.
Literally my number one priority for us as a sheriff's office is to reconnect with the community we're serving.
100%.
That is what we have to do. I think somewhere along the line, law enforcement has lost sight of that importance and that relationship we need to build with the community we're serving. Sure, we have a job to keep everybody safe, but that doesn't fall all on our shoulders. That's up to everybody in our community too, to work with us. We just do it officially, right? Your job is to call 911 when you see something wrong.
Yeah.
Or tell us when you see something that we need to do something. The See Something, Say Something campaign is very legit in how we're going to be able to keep Ventura County safe. And it's up to us to work together. And the more you get to know the officers that are in your area, the more you're gonna be willing to tell them what's wrong and how they can help do it.
100%. I love it. I want to dive into everything, but this is Sippin' with Sky. And I know you're a fan of tequila.
I am, in fact.
So we definitely got to do a cheers.
Cheers for sure. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. Oh, that's good.
That's a great tequila. So we actually first started carrying Maestro del Bel in our store right when it came out. And I thought it was really interesting. You notice that it looks like a Blanco tequila.
Yes.
But it's actually a reposado tequila that's been charcoal filtered, so it gets rid of the color, but it still has some of the flavor of the reposado, but still has a smoothness of a Blanco.
It's very smooth. This is my first time now having this.
Oh, is it really?
The first time having it. It's very good.
Yeah.
A very good sipping tequila, very smooth. There's no bite to it. A lot of people are, when you talk about tequila, they have that, ooh.
Yeah.
They were drinking horrible tequila and probably drank too much of it.
Yes.
and had a negative reaction as a result. If you drink good tequila, there's really good ones to mix to have a margarita, because I'm one for a very good fresh squeezed margarita.
Yeah.
But to have a sipping tequila like a reposado was very nice.
It was nice to come out to that event in Moore Park that we were doing the whiskey sampling and tasting.
Yeah.
there. And what was cool there is while I was sampling to everybody, it was funny because every single person told me, hey, I got to go introduce you to Jim. I got to introduce you. I'm like, we already met Jim. So question is this, is why everybody I know from the Sheriff's Department and all these amazing people, including one of the older commander, you remember, Rick Barrios?
I know Rick very well, yes.
I was literally on a phone call with him and he said, this is the real deal. This guy's the man. So tell me about the experience that you had working with Rick.
So I've known Rick for a lot of years. He was in the jail as a supervisor when I was a brand new deputy 31 years ago. It wasn't until much later, almost his last assignment, I was the chief of police in Ojai, and so Rick was my direct boss. But my job was obviously running a police station. Not only did I have Ojai proper, the city, but I had the whole unincorporated area of Ojai. So Miners Oaks, Casita Springs, Oakview, and then also had Lockwood Valley. and I got to oversee all of that. And so when I met with Rick, because he had taken over as a West County commander right when I started in Ojai, and I said, here's the deal. I'm going to run a great police station. I'm going to make you very proud, and you're going to love everything I'm doing. He goes, okay. That's the way you set it up. And so I really had that opportunity to work on community policing and that partnership in Ojai. When I first got there as a chief, it was really a goal of mine to make sure that we kind of flipped the script on policing. Really get back to the basics of protect and serve.
Yeah.
Get the community to know who we are, arrest the people that are causing problems, work with our community so they know what the issues are, so they can help keep us informed so we can keep them all safe. Probably 15%, 20% of the officers that assigned to the station at the time were either from Ojai or lived in Ojai currently, which isn't a large percentage. It's one of our further stations away from the county. But I told the officers, they said, I want you to treat this community as though you live here. I want you to treat the residents as though you're family members, they're your brothers and sisters, or your neighbors, because that's how we're going to interact with our community here to keep them safe. And it was a very effective. Those are important things. There's people that need to go to jail, and we write tickets to prevent accidents, but I don't want that to be their driving force.
Yeah.
I want their driving force to be much broader. Do everything you can within the confines of the law to keep our community safe.
Yeah,
and I think
one thing that I really loved when we were at the golf tournament, you asked me, hey, you as a business owner, Sky, what can we do to improve what we're doing? Your idea of connecting the different police stations together as a network to communicate to solve crime.
Yes.
Can you tell me how you came up with that idea and what's your plan to do so?
So great question. So we as law enforcement, once again, we don't have to do it alone. We want to work with our community. But we're also not the only law enforcement agency in the county or in the region. So we have, in Ventura County, there's 10 incorporated cities. I know they can't do it on their own, and we shouldn't try and do it on our own. Although we're the largest agency in the county, why wouldn't I want to partner with these other agencies? Because if any one of our agencies is weak, we're weak as a county. Our larger cities are more self-sufficient, but why not work together? And so my plan is, and has been, is to work with all these other agencies so we're not independently working on the same thing.
Yep.
Be smart about the resources we have. We have a finite amount of resources. Policing is very expensive for communities, and that's because we have to provide it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter what. Somebody calls in sick, we have to fill it. I want our detectives to have a good relationship, not just the executive level. I want our detectives to know the detectives at each of these stations so they can pick up the phone and be the easy button for each other. Like, hey, we're chasing somebody, he's out of Simi, he's out of Thousand Oaks. This is what they did down here. How can you help us? And then we work together. And we can talk to one another. So when I see each other on the command post, hey, Sky, this is what I'm seeing. This is what we need to do together. And now we have a relationship.
I love that because a while back ago, we actually got broken into. The crime happened from LA County. Came here, they hit us, they hit a bunch of other places, and they thought they were scot-free. When I looked at the videotapes and I saw them drive down the 118 highway, because my shop's right there in Saticoy on the 118 highway. So the car leaves, goes out, and drives without the lights on. First thing I did, I called Victor Flores and I said, hey, ask your whole team if anybody got pulled over that night not driving without their headlights. And all of a sudden, we found out that Ceci pulled them over, Deputy Ceci, pulled them over, got their information, got them busted here and 5 other jobs. I think they got busted 3 or 5 other jobs that they did through Ventura County to LA County.
Yep.
So it goes back to what you said, that by communicating with everybody, we're going to be able to make sure that these criminals get caught. Because I think that's one big thing that we've been missing. So I'm excited to hear about that.
Right? We can work together to make sure that what's happening in LA does not bleed over into Ventura County. And we can do that by working together because, like you said, a lot of the crimes that are occurring there are occurring here also. We have very strong DAs here in Ventura County that are going to hold people accountable. And people are going to figure that out. They're not going to want to come here to commit crime because we're going to put them away.
No, definitely. I think as a business owner and someone who's been through that struggle, that it's nice to see that communication is going to happen. Now, as a business owner, what else can us business owners like myself expect from you and your team if you get elected?
So when I get elected.
When you get elected.
When I get elected, our officers are going to know they're business owners. Because I'm not going to be measuring just stats all the time where they don't feel like they have the time, right? That's one of the issues right now is we're such a stat-driven organization. Not that stats are all bad, right? We need to know our officers are doing something. But if that's all they're ever being measured on, they're not going to take the time to get to know the business owner because they're looking to make the next arrest. And that's where we're missing that shared information. So when the officers get out of their car, get to know the business owners in their beat, hey, how are things going? Are you seeing anything? Well, yeah, he just, the guy came in here the other day, didn't buy anything, it looked like he was scoping it out. I thought it was odd. I didn't want to call 911 because I didn't want to bother you. We get that a lot, right? I didn't want to bother you. Well, it's not a bother. Call us. When you see something that's not right, call us so that we can do something about it.
One thing that, as a business owner, entrepreneur, one thing that I love to do is I love to have great communication with my team. I like to take all the input that they give me so that I can make sure that their job is easier by making those adjustments. We were talking and you described a moment where you went to leadership and you had ideas. What happened when you went and you shared ideas?
It was really interesting. So the first person I met with was the sheriff. There was a difference in kind of a policing strategy during the pandemic. Myself and my counterpart, John Riley, who was the other commander with me at the station in Thousand Oaks, and Vic Fazio, who was the chief of police in Moore Park, we all talked about what on earth has just happened, right? The whole world just got shut down. 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right? And I came home that evening. All the businesses got shut down. My wife's a teacher. She got sent home from school with all her supplies. And I said, hey, you're going to be teaching by Zoom starting next Monday. So, and both my kids came home from school like, what on earth just happened, right?
Yeah.
That night, we're talking about it, we're watching the news going, what is going on? Well, Saturday morning when I woke up, I'm like, I don't belong here. I need to get to work. And so I told my wife, I said, I'm leaving. I'm going to get suited up. I'm going to go work patrol. Because our officers had never gone through this before either. And I knew that they were looking for some leadership. And so I got hold of John. I said, hey, what are you doing? He goes, nothing. Everything's shut down. I said, get suited up. We're going to go work patrol. So we went to the station, got a police car. We drove around, backed up the officers on calls, talked to them about really this virus that nobody knew anything about. And I said, listen, all I know is I don't want you to get sick. I don't want you to get your family sick. I don't want you to get my community sick. Everybody's home right now, so we don't have to worry about a lot of residential burglaries. But all the businesses are now closed. Extra patrol our businesses so they don't get victimized, because the people that are looking to do harm are going to pivot and change their tactics. I go, so we need to really focus on our businesses. And with our grocery stores, there was people, that were really uncertain about even being able to find toilet paper. I said, I want you to drive through the grocery store parking lots. I don't want people fighting over those things.
Yeah.
Be the position of calm for our community. Like, we're here to help prop them up and be the stabilizing force for the community we're serving. And I go, and frankly, a lot of people just got laid off last night. They don't know where their job is, if they're going to be opening again, or if they're going to get a paycheck or not. I said, this is not the time to be writing a lot of tickets. This is the time to give a lot of warnings. We're going to lean into our community right now and be stable. And we all agreed that that was the position we were going to take. Well, the other half of the county, under the assistant sheriff and a couple of other commanders, had a totally different position. Theirs was business as usual. Business as usual. We're in the middle of a pandemic, something we've never seen in our lifetimes. And they told the officers, get out there and do your job. Make arrests, write tickets. They actually even sent out a video on how to pull a car over and keep your distance so you wouldn't get the virus. But it obviously wasn't run through the academy, because from an officer safety standpoint, it was probably the most unsafe car stop I'd ever seen in my life. And I told my officers, I said, if you stop a car like that, I'm not going to be very happy. I said, I'm way more concerned about your safety than I am about getting a ticket. And it really created a divide in our organization. So the sheriff came out, because he was hearing the rumblings as well from the association. And he met with John and I said, hey, this is what we're doing. This is where the problem is. He didn't change it. He let them continue to do it. He was undermined by his assistant sheriff that really countered anything the sheriff had just put out. And when that wasn't changed, I realized right then, I go, you've lost control of your organization and you're not strong enough to stick up for us. So then I met with the assistant sheriff, the one that was really the driving force for this. And I said, hey, I think we could do things better. I think there's a lot of issues that we should be addressing, working with our community. And just counting stats and trying to measure officers against one another out of a station, even though they work different beats, different times a day, right? All these have different skill sets, and we're trying to cram them into a box and say you're all going to have to do the same and have the same numbers at the end of the month. It doesn't make any sense to me. And he says, if you don't like it, there's an election every 4 years.
And here we are.
And here we are. It didn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
I was trying to help shed some light on things that I think we could be doing better in policing in general, and how we could work with our community. Ventura County, we are very fortunate to have a very safe community. We all look out for one another. We want to have a safe county. But to have somebody who is not willing to even listen to other ideas than his own, I realized, you know what? Maybe that's the only thing I can do is run for sheriff.
And being in public service, our job, I recently joined the Saticoy Council, the chair of the Saticoy Council, and one of the biggest things that I learned from my friend Matt Lavier is you have to go out there and listen to everybody, take the input, and then make the decision that's best for your team, the community, and everybody. So I 100% respect that, and I think it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I think this is something great for our community, and I'm excited to see what you do. Because as a business owner, I haven't had that much interaction with the current administration, and just meeting you and talking to you about this and hearing from so many people I respect, like Victor. I've had dozens of conversations with other people and how everybody stands by you, and I'm shocked I haven't heard your name before, right? I'm like, wow, like these guys are like, oh my God, and hearing all these stories. And then I heard about a story. The thing that I loved is it wasn't just about your leadership. It wasn't just about the good things about what you've done about the community, but you've actually been in the trenches. You've actually worked on the street. You worked in Ojai, and you had situations that arise that are very difficult, but they've made you who you are today.
Yes.
Can you share with us about what happened in Ojai?
Yeah. It was obviously very early in my career. Like all good deputies, I started in the jail. I did 3.5 years in our county jail first, but then I was assigned to the Ojai station as a patrol officer. And I worked hard, learned as much as I could. I had some great field training officers, some who have since passed away, but they were great field training officers teaching me how to be a good cop. And in 1996, I was actually named Officer of the Year early on in the year because of my interactions and my willingness to work. Later that year, July 17th to be exact, I was involved in an officer-involved shooting. It was a domestic violence call that we went on. And back then we had 2 deputies in a car. This was, like I said, 1996. Peter Aguirre and his partner Steve Sagely were in a car together, and then I was with my partner Dave Sparks. So we show up, and when Pete and Steve go on the gate, Steve is off to the side, and then Dave and I are on the side of the house. We're by an oak tree, just listening in. And so as Pete knocks on the front door, the side door opens up about 6 inches. Then closes again. Kind of keyed us up a little bit, right? Like something's not right. And so I told Dave, I said, all right, let's get closer to the house. So we go up to the side door that just opened, and we're listening in. And I can hear what sounds like people talking inside the house. And I'm like, all right, they're inside, let's go inside. And as soon as Dave put his hand on the doorknob, we hear shots fired inside the house. Boom, 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 boom. And so I retreat back to the oak tree, and I get on the radio and say, we have shots fired, need code 3 backup. So I run to the front of the house, and I'm pretty fast. As I round another oak tree, he's already standing in the front yard waiting for me. He's about 40 feet away from where I'm at, and he's got a gun in each hand and just starts unloading on me. So he just starts shooting. Boom, 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 boom. So I come up and I return fire, and I shoot 3 rounds. The first 2 were low, and the third one hit him. Another officer had arrived on scene. I said, hey, watch this guy. I'm going inside the house, and went inside and found, I'd heard the other officers put out, we had an officer down, deputy down, and went inside and I saw Pete, and Pete was on the ground, and I won't go into the gory details, but it was a mess. Turns out he had been shot several times, never got his gun out of the holster. So that was a life-changing event for me for sure. And not that you don't train for this, right? I mean, we obviously train to be involved in shootings. We're armed and we wear bulletproof vests for a reason. And but it happens to so few people. You're like, man, that's never going to happen. That night, I was obviously just adrenaline overload. And it was, several days later, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to go back. And I had, the department gives you 3 days off. I already had a vacation that was scheduled after that. And so I took a couple of additional days off, and then I started my vacation. So I was off for about 3 weeks. And my first day back at work, I'm driving to work, and I'm like, I can feel like I have the flu. My skin hurts, right? Just thinking about going back and putting a uniform on again. And I get to the station, and I see that they've changed the schedule around, and I'm working with one of the more senior officers, Mike Kennedy, who's now since passed away also. He was the senior deputy at the time. And we get a call of a domestic disturbance at the same address where I was involved in my shooting.
No way.
Same address. And so we have what's called a hazard file. So when we have a traumatic incident or a threat at a house, our dispatch is aware of those addresses and will let us know, hey, there's a hazard file at this location. So they start telling me the hazard, and I get on the radio, I said, I'm very familiar with this hazard, thank you. And it was the daughter of the victim from the domestic that I responded to where I was in my shooting. She was in a domestic with her boyfriend.
Oh my God.
And so we get up there, ultimately arrest him because he had battered both the mom and her. So we arrest him. And When we arrested him, the sergeant comes up and he goes, "Welcome back." And my radio goes off again. Respond code 3, same address. The daughter is now threatening to commit suicide because we arrested her boyfriend. Wow. So I go back to the house again. We go inside and I can actually see on the floor in the kitchen where they cut the flooring out from where Pete was executed. And so we take her to mental health, and it was only like 9:30 in the evening. So my shift is still about 2 hours longer. And I just got on the radio and said, my shift is over.
Yeah.
I'm done. Wow. And told my partner, I said, that's enough for my first day back. And he goes,
your first day back.
First day back.
99% of people would have quit by here. I mean,
Yeah.
that's intense to deal with what you had to deal with your first day back and flashbacks of everything.
Yeah. And during that time that I was off, nobody had gone to that house. There was not a single call between the day of the shooting and then my first day back. And then I go back there twice in my first day back. With that, Pete obviously was married, had a young daughter at the time. So Dina was his wife, so now widow Dina. And then Gabriella is his daughter. And, we got to, as an agency, got to watch Gabby grow up. They would come by the police stations every year. So I got to watch her grow up. And she and I became very close after that. And when she graduated high school that year, she really wanted to go away to college, and she wanted to go to San Diego State. And I knew the admissions counselor down there. So I called and said, hey, this is a girl I know. She wants to get into San Diego State. Because her dad was killed in the line of duty, they do offer free tuition for survivors. Cool. And so I would want to make sure they would accept that. And they said, yeah, we'll take care of all that, no problem. And they got to meet her and she filled out the application. She did 1 year down there, but she called me after her first year and she goes, hey, I think I want to be back home. I miss my family. I miss being around my friends. She goes, but I really want to have a father figure. She goes, would it be okay if I moved in with you and your wife? And our two daughters, our daughters were 9 and 7 at the time. And I go, I'm okay with it. I go, let me ask your mom and ask your Tia Tracy. She calls my wife Tia Tracy. Yeah. So I asked Tracy, I said, you okay with it? She goes, I'm good with it. Just make sure her mom's okay. And so I called Dina and I said, hey, Gabby's ready to come back from school. And she wants to move in with Tracy and I. Are you okay with that? And she goes, absolutely. So Gabby moved in with us. She took over one of the rooms. Our girls were still sharing a room at the time, so it was no big deal for us. And she went to school at Moore Park College. She worked at the police station. And I was having conversations with a 19-year-old I wasn't really prepared to have yet.
Yeah,
my kids were only 9 and 7.
Yeah.
And so I got to talk to her about relationships. I got to talk to her about, being an adult and some of the things that she needed to hear. And, this has now been many years. And so she's now married herself. She's got 2 boys of her own.
That's awesome. One
that she named after her dad, Sammy Peter Miramontes, and she named her second son after me, Mateo James. I'm James Matthew Fryhoff, so she named her son Mateo James.
Wow.
So awesome. Quite the honor. For sure. So, I still obviously have a very close relationship with her and her mom as well.
That's awesome. Why should somebody go to the polls and vote for Jim Fryhoff?
You're going to vote for me for some very simple reasons. One, I've got a long history of being in law enforcement in this county. I've had the opportunity to work, on a lot of our different stations, but detectives, special enforcement, I'm, endorsed by nearly every law enforcement agency in the county. Fire, not only county fire, but Oxnard Fire, their associations as well. LA Sheriffs, Santa Barbara Sheriffs, Kern County Sheriffs have all endorsed. Santa Monica Police Department, who has not historically endorsed anybody outside of LA County, endorsed me because they have a lot of members that are here, because they want our officers to be supported. And one thing that I have a long history of doing is supporting the officers that work for me to make sure they know that I've got their back. And like you mentioned earlier, I'm going to hold them accountable because we have rules and policies for them to follow that they're going to follow. But they know that I'm going to support them in their efforts. They know that I'm going to give them guidance. And I'm not going to be leading from the back. I'm going to be leading from the front. And they know that I'm not going to ask them to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. Because I've done it before, I'm willing to do it again, and they know it. It's up to all of us here in Ventura County to keep Ventura County safe. People are going to vote for me because I'm going to bring us all together, because this is going to be Team Ventura County.
I'm excited to see the future of Ventura County.
Yeah, me too.
I endorse you.
Thank you very much, Sky.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in to Sippin' with Sky. Please don't forget to like, comment, share it with a friend, and subscribe. Also, you can follow us on Instagram at Sippin' with Sky. Cheers! We'll see you on the next one.